Hey. No, we'll see. Hey, good morning. We're here this morning to celebrate a life well lived, to remember Annabelle, to think about the impact and just the impact he had on each one of our lives, and just honor her and remember her here this morning. This is not a traditional service. It is, we're going to open it up to people to share memories. She loved telling stories. So we're going to share some stories of our memories about her, and just, I think it's a really cool time for the family and for all the friends and family that are gathered here in her honor, right? This is about her and the impact that she had on each one of our lives. So we'll just open with a prayer real quick, and we'll get into sharing some stories. Heavenly Father, we just thank you this morning for today. Just a beautiful day it is that you created. We thank you for the life well lived that Annabelle lived, and we got to witness and be a part of, Lord. We just ask for you to be with us during this time as we share and laugh and maybe shed some tears, over her no longer being with us, Lord. We just thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. So, yeah, one of the things that we were going to do when I asked, what we're going to do here this morning, one of it's nobody came here to listen to me preach, so we're not doing that, right? I got that nickname, Preach, from Annabelle. Years ago, Sue and I were leading a small church, and it was something new for us, and definitely something new for the family. And it was one of those trips where Rose and Annabelle were out running around Lancaster County doing who knows what in that big, big car, and those two little people running around to every Amishman that sold eggs or wherever. And you'd come home and you'd hear this story, and I'm thinking they had to leave just a wake of who knows what as they blew through. So Sue and I happened to come into Rose and Dick's house, and didn't even have the foot in the door, and both of them are saying, "Hey, preach!" I thought, oh, because this preaching thing at that time was very new to us, and I'm thinking, oh my word, and they're there laughing and just having just a good old time. We left there. Sue and I got in the car, and I said, "Boy, I just got my ass kicked by two old ladies." And every time I seen her after that was, "Hey, preach, what are you doing?" In one of those moments, I believe it was, Sue's mom, Rose, at her memorial service, very, very similar to this. And you know, Annabelle came up to me and said, "I want you to do mine." And my response always was, "Well, let's not get in a rush, right? Let's push that off for a long, long time." And she did, right? She pushed this moment off for a long, long time. Um, Again, when Dick passed away, came up again and said, "Hey, I want you to do mine." And again, let's not get in a hurry. We want you around for a long, long time. That's how we ended up here today. And when Annabelle passed away, I got a call from Janice and saying, "Hey, Mom wanted you to do hers." And I shared this up at the Indian Town Gap. It's an honor, right? So I know I didn't know her nearly as well as most of you in this room, but the little bit I knew, I loved it. Right? What a life well lived. It's one of those things that we're here today, right? And we've been blessed with today. When I look at how she lived her life, I think about, and it makes me want to live today to the fullest, right? Let don't waste a moment. We don't know how many we have. She didn't know how many she had, but she lived each one of them to the fullest. And what an awesome way to go out, right? I want that to be said of me when I'm done. He lived it to the fullest, and each one of us in here has that opportunity. We've been given today. Let's live it to the fullest. We're gonna, like I said, nobody came here to listen to me. So what part of this is, if somebody has a memory, you can stand up right where you're at. This is a small room, or you're welcome to come up. Just share memories and stories. She loved telling stories. I used to get a kick out of it where when her and Rose would be either in their living room or anywhere else, like some of the stuff that came up, and I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Like, it sounded like they had to be making this up, but they weren't, right? Yeah, it was great. So Sue actually wrote just a few things down, and I'll share that one. Annabelle was always my seamstress for all my dresses. I remember one time Mom and I were at her house, and she was hemming one of my bridesmaids' dresses. It was a light colored dress and not very heavy. As she was pinning my dress, she had a funny expression on her face. She stopped what she was doing, went into their bedroom, and came out with a pair of underwear. You can imagine my face when she told me to put them on. I was in total shock and utter disbelief. She was telling me to put her underwear on. She told me that they were new and that they will not show under my dress. That was highly debatable at the moment. Mom was smiling, and I dared not look at her. Should I or should I not put on the underwear? I did that. I did what any thoughtful, respectful niece would do. I put on that underwear, and after Mom and Aunt Annabelle were done laughing at me, I know where that's at. Yeah. After she said that was much better. If you're thinking to yourself, did I wear that underwear when I wore the dress? The answer is yes. I knew Aunt Annabelle would be looking at the pictures and looking for panty lines. One of my mom's wishes for Steph and I, and there weren't many, was to make sure that we stayed in touch with Aunt Annabelle. We did. We called her, and we called her, and she called me about every week just to chat and see how everyone's doing. She always asked about the boys and preach. Steph and I made sure we took her out to lunch and off as often as we could and just hang out for the day. Steph or I would always drive. Mind you, we lived in Lancaster, and she lived in Columbia. We always let her pick the place she wanted to eat. Sometimes it was a local place like Hinkle's or Smith's. Other times it was farther away. The one time she couldn't remember the name of the restaurant she wanted to go to, but knew how to get there, or so she claimed. And those are some of the stories. Oh yeah, we were going here and we ended up there, and I'm thinking, like, I don't know how that's possible, but it happened a lot. We ended up driving to Intercourse to hear her say, "Well, this isn't where I wanted to go." So we turned around and we ended up at the Centerville restaurant. She laughed and said, "Why didn't we just stop here when we went past it the first time?" After we ate and before we took her home, we always took a tour of Columbia. One time we drove by a house that she thought was where Mom's childhood friend Sylvia lived. After driving by it several times, we pulled in the driveway. She made me go up to the door and see if this is the house that Sylvia lives in. Her and Steph stayed in the car, and I'm sure they were laughing. Sylvia's husband was home, and I swear he was going to shut the door in my face. I had to quick tell him who I was and what I was looking for. Thankfully that was their house. She wasn't home at the time, but we did go back a little while later and had a nice visit. And Annabelle, I will miss our lunches, tours around Columbia. I will think of you every time I have a Yingling. And you were one of a kind. Thank you for all the laughs and great times. You will always be in mine and my family's hearts. Right. So yeah, there's an impact, right? There's memories that go with it. The Yingling thing. So I like Yingling. And Annabelle's in her 90s riding this thing to triple digits. I thought, well, I can get behind that plan. I got fatter and got high blood sugar. She rode it to 102. Like, that's awesome. Yeah, we're here to remember an amazing lady. Anybody else? A story they want to share, or a memory you want to share? Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
So one time I was at the nursing home and she said, "Let's go for a walk." I'm like, "Grab your walker." She's like, "No, I want you to push me in the wheelchair." I'm like, "Well, that's not walking." And then she's like, "Well, okay." So I pushed her around the whole third floor, and then she's like, "Okay, let's go to the garden." I'm like, "Okay." Then I push her around the whole garden. She's like, "Can you bring me back up?" Yeah. And then she's like, "Thank you for letting me walk." I'm like, "You mean thank you for letting you ride?" And then she's like, "Well, yeah, I guess."
We're giving you a ride, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was plenty of quick wit, right? I will say, like I said, I have had less time with Annabelle than most of you in the room, but for you guys, um, every time we had an opportunity to visit, it was talking about you guys, right? You two, family was important, right? And I know you guys know this, but I'm telling you from an outsider, she loved you guys. It was something that was you couldn't not see it, right? You know, she'd want to hear about what's going on in our world, and she loved sharing what was going on in your world. That's the kind of person she was. You don't fake that. Like that. That's the real deal, and very 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 cool that to be a part of. But anyone else? Story?
This goes better after Jen, since she's being shy. Most of you know the rules of 1006 Central Avenue. This is before I knew the rules. 1969, probably, maybe 68. I think it was 69. Brought my roommate home from school. Had a date with Janice over the weekend, a scheduled date. Sandy Springer was going to be my roommate's date. So we pull up. The house was built in 52, 55. That's probably the third time the door was open. Annabelle came to the door, looked surprised, said, "I'm here to pick up Janice." And she said, "She's not here." And I said, well, Terry and I were supposed to meet her for a date. And she said, "No, she and Sandy left 20 minutes ago. They went somewhere." And I went, "Oh, okay, well, thanks." Went and got in the car and drove away. Now, today you think, well, they just text you, well, that was 69. It was like, the next day, maybe we talked because nobody went home and nobody. So anyway, that was my introduction to Annabelle. I think she got to know me and like me a little better. But that was her.
Where did Janice and Sandy go?
Huh?
Where did Janice and Sandy go?
Oh, they were in the bedroom. That was Annabelle.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Good stories. Anybody else? Yeah. You want to respond?
Preempted me, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Sandy and I ended up going out for dinner by ourselves. So, well, thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of my mom, Annabelle Auer. Before I begin, though, I need to make an apology. Dad, I'm sorry. We kept Mom here as long as we could. But now it's time for peace on earth. Amen. If you know, you know. Right. Well, another leaf has fallen from our tree. A few weeks ago, Charlie Miller and I were sharing memories of Mom as her 102nd birthday approached. And during our conversation, Charlie remarked, "I don't know how to describe your mom, but if I had to pick one word, it would be broad." It was his way of capturing her toughness, her independent spirit, her sass, and her wicked sense of humor. The essence of who she was, shaped by a lifetime of resilience. Annabelle was born March 17, 1924, to George, Dewey, and Edna Mae Murr Sheets, their third child of 9. At age 6, she lost her oldest sister, Edna Catherine, to spinal meningitis. Later, Annabelle suffered severe burns when her younger brother Wackle threw burning matches into the air and they landed on her dress, which caught fire. She missed a year of school to recover and eventually completed 7 years of education, likely leaving school around the age of 14 in 1938. Like many children during the Great Depression, Annabelle quit school to help the family and to work in a garment factory. When World War II began, her life was marked by rationing, blackouted air raid drills, and friends going off to war, some not coming back. Her sailor, John Mousy Auer, lived up the street and had served as a Navy Seabee in the Aleutian Islands. He returned safely, and they married September 13, 1947 at Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Columbia. Annabelle and Mouse had one child, a daughter, me. To say she was a doting mother is an understatement. She made my clothes, scheduled my life, and even chose my boyfriends. One night when I was studying at the college library, Mom suspected I was out with a young man whom she disliked. She recruited her neighbor, Ann Gamby, to drive her to his house so she could steal my car. As she got into the car, she opened the car door and Ann honked and pointed to the decal on the side of the car. Mom was about to steal the chief of police's car. But that was life with my mom. She made sure I wanted for nothing, crafting unique clothing by sketching store items, making newspaper patterns, and sewing them at home after working long days at the garment factory. Why didn't she just buy them? Because on a seamstress and a firefighter salary, those luxuries were not affordable. Most of you are now familiar with the infamous Tricia Nixon Cox wedding gown. If not, ask Paul. How could I not mention that amazing creation in a tribute to Mom? For decades, the Cabana Club was central to my parents' lives, providing lasting generational bonds through shared vacations and celebrations. That bond would serve Mom well into her centenarian years as their descendants helped her navigate those final years. Life had challenges too. In the 1970s, Dad was seriously injured in a car accident. Her brother Wackel died tragically, and her mother became ill and passed away. Despite the challenges, Mom cared for Dad and navigated the family milestones. Dad's accident led to his early retirement, which gave Mom and Dad the chance to travel extensively from Hawaii, the Caribbean, the South Pacific, to Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, and many trips cross country. Mom especially enjoyed the annual fall trips to New England. Grandchildren Anna and Byron were born, and Mom and Dad visited them wherever Michael was stationed. During a 6-month stay in the Philippines, they overstayed their visa and were escorted off the airplane, much to our chagrin. When Dad died of cancer in 1996, I thought, boy, am I in trouble now. With Dad no longer available to handle the administrative and financial aspects of their lives and the upkeep of the house and property, I didn't know how I was going to manage it all from 6 hours away. To my surprise, Mom, who had limited education, had never written a check, and had never used an ATM card, stepped up to the plate. Independence looked good on her at age 72. Whether traveling with family and friends or setting out on her own, she embraced every opportunity for new experiences. Lack of companionship did not faze her. If Mom couldn't find someone to go with her, she shopped and dined alone. She drove the old people to their doctor's appointments and Patsy to Florida. Armed with a map and cell phone, she drove to Virginia for horse shows, football, and lacrosse games. A former student reminded me a few days ago of the times Mom rode with us on the team bus to away games. At 75, she flew solo to Germany and celebrated the millennium. At 81, she took her sister Emily and Emily's granddaughter Brittany on an excursion to Italy to visit Byron. In her 90s, Mom slowed down but was energized by the births of her great-grandchildren, Maverick and Levi, who loved and entertained her whenever possible. She lived in her home for 70 years until she was 99, when she moved to Orange, Virginia, to be closer to us. When asked, she told lots of stories at the Dogwood. Everybody loved hearing her stories, even though they had no idea who she was talking about. Mom had so many stories to tell because she lived through 10 decades, witnessing history unfold from Calvin Coolidge through 18 presidents, World War II, the Korean War, the Cold War, Vietnam, civil rights and women's rights movements, and the rise of digital technology, and she never missed a chance to vote. When asked her secret to longevity, Mom joked, drinking beer. But she and I knew her real secret was her supportive village, friends, family, and neighbors who helped her and answered every call for assistance. You made home and auto repairs, mowed grass, trimmed bushes, drove her to appointments, took her to lunch, delivered her meals, and even her beer. You answered my calls day or night. Welfare checks, called 911, showed up when the ambulance arrived, convinced her to go to the hospital, met the ambulance at the hospital, stayed with her until I arrived, then stayed and kept me company, and eventually babysat her at home. There are not enough thank yous to express my gratitude. Of one thing we can be assured. After Annabelle strutted through those pearly gates, heaven's stars were bigger, brighter, and more vibrant. The clouds manicured and trimmed, the angels outfitted more fashionably, and the beer was cold. Mom had a long and glorious life because of all of you. Thank you.
Nobody's going to want to follow that.
We should go around the room and have everybody say their nickname, because we know everybody had one.
Yeah. Some of them might be unknown.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Anybody else? Yep.
We have so many wonderful memories and adventures with Aunt Annabelle. I can tell you this, it was never a dull moment with her. We always had a blast. Aunt Annabelle was an amazing woman. We loved spending time with her and enjoyed her stories of the good old days. We have so many favorite memories with her, but here are a few that stick out for Sue and I. We were taking her out to lunch, and she wanted to go to this little place in Wrightsville. She couldn't remember the name, but told us she knew how to get there. So now Wrightsville is what, about 3 minutes from Columbia? We were driving through the town of Wrightsville we went. We didn't think anything of it at the time because on purpose, she loved to drive those back roads and would go out of her way and end up backtracking to get to where she wanted to go. About 45 minutes later, I looked in my rearview mirror at Sue and she just grinned. A couple of minutes later, Aunt Annabelle laughed and said, "Girls, I think we're lost. I think I forgot to tell you to take that turn quite a while ago." Good thing for iPhones and GPSs. Sue put our location on her phone and got us back to Wrightsville. We eventually did find that location where the little place used to be, but unfortunately, it was closed down. So off to John Wright Restaurant for a very late lunch we went, and what a memorable lunch it was. No matter what direction we were heading, and every time we would go out, she would take us by where the whorehouse in Columbia was when she was growing up. She would say, "Girls, there's the whorehouse." Sue and I went with Aunt Annabelle on a historical trolley ride tour through Columbia. Aunt Annabelle would interrupt the tour guide and correct him. He was a young kid and a very good sport about it. She laughed and said she should have just given the tour. Everyone got a kick out of that. I'm sure that was a tour the kid never forgot. Whenever I drove, she would say, "You know, Steph, there's a stop sign coming up and you need to stop." I could see Sue laughing in the back seat. Not sure why she would tell me that. I would just say, "Yes, I see the stop sign, Aunt Annabelle. Don't worry, I'll stop." She would laugh and say, "You better." When Mom got to the point where she couldn't go out anymore, Aunt Annabelle would call her every night, twice. Once so they could talk about what they were going to watch on TV, and then a second time so they could talk about what happened on the show they watched. I would just sit on the chair beside Mom and find myself laughing to myself, hearing the two of them talk. It was very comical listening to them talk about the show they watched. Kyle remembers every time Aunt Annabelle would come visit Grammy and he was there, Aunt Annabelle would tell him she was going to cut his tongue out. He never asked her why, but he just figured it was because she thought he talked too much. Aunt Annabelle, thank you for all the great memories, the fun adventures, and for making us laugh. You will be missed. We love you, but we will see you later.
Yeah, if you haven't picked up on it till this point, she left an impact, right? You know, that's hard to miss. Anybody else?
I have one that's not nearly as cool. When I was probably in 7th, 8th grade, I got recruited to cover grass. And so it's my first time going up there, and of course, you know that everything is where it's supposed to be, and there's not a weed where it isn't supposed to be, any of that stuff. And it has a self-propelled lawn boy. It was my first time with the self-propelled lawn boy. And we're going around, there's all kinds of curves and things like that. I get out on the side of the house, on the 10th Street side, near the front of the house on the Central Avenue side, and the self-propelled lawn boy got away from me, went right into the beautiful Pachysandra bed, took it down to nothing. I'm like, oh no, what are they gonna do now? What do I say about this? I go, I was like, all right, I go and knock on the door. I'm like, okay, I have no accident over here with it. She comes over and looks at it. She said, oh, hell, don't worry about it.
Very gracious. Anybody? Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things about Aunt Annabelle was when I would go with her to San Antonio to visit one of my other favorite aunts, Aunt Emily. Maybe I think we took 3 or 4 trips out there. And the two of them would get up somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. And they would go out and sit on the porch and talk and drink coffee. And I wouldn't get up till maybe 9 o'clock. And I would go out on the porch and they would go, good morning, princess. And then we would sit out there till darn near noontime. And I would learn so much about this family. My mother never shared those stories. The things they would tell me would curl your toes. I would say, are you sure about that? And year after year, they would repeat those stories word for word. So I was pretty sure those things were true. And the last thing, one of the last things I did with Aunt Annabelle was make drapes for my daughter's house. I took her there because Sherry bought material. And the windows in my daughter's house were as tall as the center of the ceiling. And I said, can we make those drapes? And she said, hell yeah, we can make those. And we laid that material out on the floor, and she had me crawling on my hands and knees, and she taught me to make those. And those drapes still hang in that house, even though my daughter sold it. Those drapes were beautiful. I learned a lot from that woman. The other thing she did to me is every time I took her to the Dutch country, we had to go where Anna had her blankets for a horse. And we'd pull into that driveway, and there was an Amish man to be found. And she would say, just go in the barn. He's in there. I'm telling you, just go in the barn. Just yell for him. He's in there. He'll come out. He's in there. And I'll be there, and I would go in that barn, and I would yell for him. Or she'd make me go to the back door and knock on the door until those people would come out, so she could say hello. And they were always so happy to see her. They were always so happy. And we'd ride around that Amish country for hours and hours. And she loved that. I loved the time I got to spend with her. I love my Aunt Annabelle. I will miss her terribly.
Yeah, thank you. You know, here telling stories, and I think this is something that she would get a kick out of. Anyone else?
So, Byron, most of y'all probably know me as Bryony. So as my sister Anna was saying, not only did every person have a nickname, every restaurant had a nickname. So if you were going, yeah, if you were going out to dinner with her, you didn't know where you were going. She would call it the chicken house. And I can't put that in GPS because that's what its real name is. But I'd like to thank all of y'all being here. My 3 oldest friends in the back. I remember one time my buddy Ryan and I stayed at her house. I don't even remember why. And then we went to see his sister out in Elizabethtown. Is that where she was living? Out near Philly somewhere. And I had my Jeep, and we were driving there. I didn't have any doors or a top on the Jeep, and she was worried that they were going to come steal us right out of the Jeep while we were driving down the street. But years later, somebody came to her house trying to sell vacuums, and she thought it was my buddy Ryan. So she let him in, and she's sitting there talking to this guy, and just very confused about why Ryan's trying to sell her vacuums. And it finally dawned on her that wasn't Ryan. So she escorted him out of the house as quickly as she could. But she always told me that story every time I saw her. Every time I saw her, she asked about them. But yeah, that's it. Thanks.
See, we could be here a week from now and still be hearing stories, right? And that's what we get to hold on to, right? You guys, everybody in here, that impact and the relationship that each of you had with her, that don't go anywhere, right? That's here, and you keep that with you and you cherish it, right? Anyone else?
I'll piggyback on that. I remember the first time I met Annabelle. She was coming visiting Brian and the family, and she pulled up in the car. It was a large car. I don't know what it was, a Lincoln or something, but it was quite a big car. And Brian and I went out to get her luggage, which turned out to be one bag and a case of beer. In my head, I was like, wow, that's the coolest grandma ever. And we came in, and I'd known Byron's parents for a little while, and I probably already ruined their reputation with them. And so, I always learned to respect my elders. I was trying to make a good impression. And after that, we sat, I think she shared a beer with me, and we chatted and stuff, and left. Come to find out, Mom Janice told me that Lola said that I was a bad influence on Byron. I don't know what my actual nickname is, but that's the reputation I have.
You might be on the right path. Oh, yeah. No, like I said, when you think about, funeral services and saying goodbye, and one of the things that I think this is so awesome to be able to just share memories and talk about and think about and remember who she was and what she means to each of us, right? This is a pretty cool thing. I really do think she would get a kick out of this, but yeah. Anybody else?
I met them back when we were in the Philippines, we were stationed in the Philippines, and when they came to visit that's when Anna was born. And he always say, don't forget not forget us. So I thought we're not gonna see them, but then when Janice and them back in the U.S., she both of them, Lolo and Lola, like to us, and that's how I get to know them well by writing. So when we moved here back in 1985, or my husband was stationed over here, they all came to meet us at the airport, and that's how I felt that they are so nice to us. And he always say, don't forget to come and see us in Pennsylvania. So we mingle with them. We were stationed there too, and we stay at their house, Janice, and my house, until we moved to our house. And while we are there, they always come and visit them. We go see them. And one year she said, "Why don't you come and see Princess Diana?" And then she said, "Maybe we will come someday." So in the year 2000, August, we drove here to see Lola. I mean, before Lola passed away in 1986, like 1996 years, we were not in Virginia because we were already in California, and Janice asked my husband to see if he could have the tie of my husband to use the uniform for Lolo when he passed away. But every time you see them, they always say, "Come to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania," something like that. So when we went to see them, like what everybody said about the intercourse, so we drove around, and then she said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "Oh, just drive around." Everybody said, "So we're lost." She said, "We're lost." I said, "Okay." So she said, "I'm driving around. She said, "So what are we gonna eat?" And she said, "It's up to you." So I said, "We just keep driving around until we say we got lost." So we ended up going to intercourse. And I said, "That's where we're gonna." So that's how I get to know Lola. They always said, "Be good." Be good. So everything is well said. And thank you for knowing them. They're so nice. And they're like a part of our world. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
From the time I was in 8th grade through college, Annabelle and Mouse were like my second parents. We would do all kinds of crazy things. We would go down in the basement. We were supposed to be doing one thing and whispering and trying to figure out how we can get out and how we can do things. We would slip out of the house, sneak back in at different times. But we had a great time. And Janice's mom was always sewing. And as she was sewing, she couldn't just make something for Janice. She also had to make something for me. So I had kilts made. How often do you wear a kilt? She made me a coat that goes to my ankles for the prom. So I had this beautiful coat to go to the prom. But we just had so much fun together. And I'm really gonna miss it.
Yeah, you're not alone there, right? This room's full of people that are really, really gonna miss her. Yeah. Anyone else?
This is nothing big or anything, but it reminds me of her. I had, there's four of us, four brothers and sisters, and we were in 6th, 5th, and 4th grade at Manor Street. Of course, she lives close to Manor Street. School we went to. At that time, we came home for lunch from Manor School. And I don't know, I guess Dad and Mom weren't able to be home, or Mom wasn't able to be home. And they were going somewhere, but this happened occasionally. So they would ask Annabelle if she would make lunch for us. So we went down Manor Street, and it was a short walk. And she'd make lunch, and the lunch she would make, we were used to peanut butter and jelly. She literally had lunch meat and stuff, and we just look forward to having that lunch and getting us off to school again after that half hour with us.
Yeah.
It's just a fond memory of we call her Mrs. Auer. Yeah.
Yeah. No, very good. Yeah, there's a theme developing, right? Cared for people deeply, loved people, cherished family. Right. That's
You made her mad. She wasn't gonna talk to you,
so I've heard, you hear different stories and depending who made her mad that week, sometimes that would spill over to the Saturday shopping trips with Rose and you there was no guessing who didn't suit her that week.
My brother and I actually got into a bit of trouble at your wedding. Because we got to giggling. And, yeah.
You heard about it?
We heard about it. We got the stare and then the silent treatment there.
The one nice thing is the silent treatment wasn't lasting long.
The best one I got from her, I got a phone call from her, and everybody's gonna laugh about this. I took care of George and her mother, and she had Alzheimer's. And I pulled all the spark plug wires off her car, so she couldn't drive it. I get a phone call from Annabelle saying, "Hey, Jackie, don't say nothing. I said this to you, but your grandmother got her car hidden up here on 11th Street because she took it and told me not to tell you that she's driving that car." So I go up and there's the car sitting. I couldn't find the keys. So then I finally figured out where she put them. She hid the keys on the car, on the cigarette, in the cigarette tray where nobody could find them. So then we ended up taking it back down. And she says, "I thought you pulled the plugs off of it." To this day, I do not know how that lady drove that car. And every time she said, "How's grandma doing?" I said, "Oh, she's doing good today." She said, "I didn't see her take the car." I said, "No, the car's gone."
She'd keep an eye on things.
Yeah, she would. Yeah.
No, very
She'd
good.
call me and say, "Hey, do you know she's walking up through the yard?" "Yep, she's heading to the store."
No, family, right?
Yes.
Family.
Yes.
Anybody else?
I took her and Emily to Longwood Gardens. That was a big mistake. We officially got escorted from Longwood Gardens. It started out the two of them, because they would walk and they would see the flowers. Well, they'd have to get a snip here and a snip there. Well, we were told on 3 occasions that's not acceptable. You know, and the person would leave. Well, they're full of shit. So we walked a little more. We got to the fruit trees. Well, once we got to the fruit section, it was all hands off. They helped themselves to whatever fruit was on the bunch. Not realizing they've already been busted 3 times. They were being watched. Last time, the employee comes up and says, "Excuse me, you've been warned, this is not acceptable. We're gonna have to escort you off the property."
See, I hope I'm still getting in trouble in my 70s. Right?
I have not gone back to Longwood.
You might not be allowed.
Did they get to take the stuff with them?
I think they had it in their purse. The fruit they consumed.
Oh, very good. Anyone else? Yeah, it's so I said it a couple times. If you haven't noticed, there's a theme here. There's a love for family, fun, living life. Right? There's something here that was genuine, 100% genuine. You knew what you were getting, which I think is awesome. Right? You knew exactly where you stood, which I also think is awesome. Right? So. Like I said, not the most traditional service, but I think this is an awesome tribute to Annabelle and hearing you guys that knew her, that loved her, and what she meant to each one of you. I think is important for the mourning process, right? Because as we go forward, she is no longer with us, right? And we have today, right? And if we're blessed with tomorrow, we have tomorrow. And I believe one of the things that we can take away from this is you look at her and just some of the stories that we heard today, and I know there's 1,000 others, right? If you're blessed with tomorrow, live it to the fullest, right? We got today, live it to the fullest. Make the most out of what we've been given. And I believe that sums up a big part of her life and legacy that she left. But like I said, I don't want to rush this part. Anybody else?
I've been listening to everything that was said, and I couldn't agree more. But I think one thing, and I knew the entire family and lived and laughed with all of them. But I think one thing that we have to keep in mind is that these two wonderful people had a daughter. Continued this. I think if we all think back of Janice's annex. So many stories about her. And we're going to have stories for the rest of our life. And I think if you want to think of one thing, just think of the wedding. and we have a wonderful family here, and I think we all grew to love a family that has given love and laughed. And I was dressed in one of her dresses for the wedding, and I can't begin to say how much I learned to love this family. And I could tell you stories about this family too that also included Janice, and she did not fall far from the tree.
We'll have a version 2 of this at some point where.
5 to 7.
Yeah. That's the. No, very good. Anybody else? So this is much better than sitting here listening to somebody talk, right? I love when we have an opportunity. You know, it's painful because we're experiencing a loss. We've experienced a loss, but being able to have a service that I think 100% honored her and her memory and talked a lot about her character and her love of family and all those things that we knew to be true of her is expressed here today. And one of the things that, like I said, you guys, I know you guys know what you meant to her, but for somebody that only seen her once in a while, I'll tell you that you guys meant the world to her. You were her life, right? That's powerful, right? And I see this continuing on. That's one of those generational things that we keep and family, right? Family is a term we can throw around, right? You can call almost anything family, but when you see genuine people loving on each other unconditionally, being there through the hard times, being there through the good times, that is a true picture, right, of something that's really, really special. Anybody else?
First, I'd like to apologize for my phone. I thought I had it off, but I apologize. One of the times I had the privilege of being in Florida with Patsy and Annabelle. And Patsy happened to be on the telephone, and Annabelle and we ruined her stereo system. We had a tape stuck in it, could not get it out. We laughed so hard. Patsy's on the phone, getting furious at us. And we just had so much fun that trip. And then on the way home, when I was driving them home, it was very tense, to say the least. I met my husband in Myrtle Beach. And I told him, I said, you're driving your mom the rest of the way home, not in the car with her. Annabelle's with me. I took Annabelle out to Dick's. I don't know if you all know what Dick's is down in Myrtle Beach, where they go and they make this like paper condom hat and they write something funny on it. She loved that. She laughed so much over that. Well, as you can, Anna said about being mad, well, that was the end of Patsy and Annabelle. And Patsy tried, she would get nowhere, but for a couple of years, we were all referred to as those people. So we got back to where we needed to be before she passed. But yeah, Annabelle and I, we got in so much trouble. I just followed her right down that path.
Yeah, I cave into peer pressure easy.
It was so easy with her.
A good leader. Anybody else?
I have a couple of comments to make. I'm Connie, Michael's sister. And so I met Annabelle, of course, with the wedding that was on the Hurricane Agnes weekend. I think she made our dresses, right?
Orange. They were
I
orange.
know, I told someone that the other day. And I tried to dig out some pictures. I was so much thinner then, I didn't want to show myself. But anyway, the good news with Annabelle, I was a nurse and I retired. I mean, I started working at Columbia Hospital, so I was in Columbia from 71 after they were married and all that. But, and Mouse, I got to know him. And after Mouse died, and I also worked with Pat Cypher, so we had that connection for a while. And with the Central Avenue group. And with my mother and Annabelle, oftentimes I was the person that went along when the grandkids went to Hershey Park or something. Now, why, all that did to me is a reason not to have children.
Hey, good job.
But my point is that through the years, I could stop at Annabelle's house. She always knew who I was and always welcomed me, and we'd sit and chat. She had a beer, I didn't drink beer at the time, she didn't have scotch at the time. But she always was, what I liked about her is she liked my grandmother, she'd call my grandmother and keep in touch, and my mom, even when my mom and all those people weren't around anymore, I would stop. I didn't say, hey, Janice, it's on your mother, because that was my connection with Annabelle. But like you're all saying, I didn't grow up with a family and all that stuff, but I knew she was always there. She always knew who I was. You know? And if I needed to, I think, did I take her for a COVID shot or something, I think. Mm-hmm. And she was looking for that egg place, and I swear to God, during the pandemic, but it wasn't really a privilege. Up until the last time I saw her, we still were having conversations about life and that kind of stuff. She was a great person to know.
Yeah, one of the things that you could, I exactly what you're saying. So I wouldn't see her that often, a couple times a year, but you could pick up right where you left off, right? And it was right there, right? Right back into conversation, right back into whatever. And yeah. Yeah, we're gonna miss her, right? Anyone else?
I do like
Yep.
So I joined this family 16 years ago, and yeah, my 16 years. And I learned how large the family was. And I tried my best to remember everyone's name, who they belonged to, who went with this, who went with that one. And it was quite the challenge, but I caught on to it real quick because it was important to me. So the first few years, we had a lot of holiday parties at our house, and we wanted to make sure that the family was involved. And it was Aunt Janet, Aunt Annabelle, Aunt this one, Aunt that one, cousin this one, nephew this. Oh, and that one's their granddaughter, and this is their grandson. And I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna be a toughie. So we would have nice parties, and Bonnie was there, and Judy would come, and what I thought was going to be 12 to 15 people would turn into 35 or 40. Well, I was in the restaurant business for many years, so I knew how to time accordingly, prepare for a party. And we had a small house. Luckily, we had 3 floors, so we would, that gang's on that floor, that gang's on this floor, coats and bathrooms are on that floor. So we were going up in town, and I was pretty much just being the waiter bartender for the night. So after Thanksgiving parties and Christmas parties and New Year's parties and Easter egg hunts and all that kind of good stuff, 10 years goes by quick, fast. And now it's COVID time. And so we're not having parties anymore. We're doing our own little thing. And Paul said, you know, it'd be nice, Eddie. And I said, what? He goes, why don't we cook for Mom and Aunt Annabelle? And I said, that sounds like good. There's nothing else going on. So I made a whole bunch of meals and cooked and stuff like that. And we took them up to Joanne and took them up to Annabelle. And I walked in the door and Annabelle goes, oh, well, where's my beer? And I thought this was a big secret because I never knew she drank. And I said to Paul, I said, we were supposed to bring beer. He said, yeah, I told you that. I said, no, you didn't. I would have remembered that. I mean, I drink beer. He goes, yeah. I said, when did she start drinking beer? And he goes, you didn't know she drank? What? You know, I said, I guess I was too busy being a host and I never who was drinking what. So that was just something I missed. I kind of remembered everybody's name, but I missed that Aunt Annabelle drank beer. Thanks for inviting me into your family.
Like I said, I thought she found the secret to longevity, a Yingling every night. I thought, I still think it's a good idea, but anybody else? Yeah, I'm not sure how long we've been doing this, but it's awesome to hear the stories, the memories, the impact, right? It's yeah, this isn't wasted time. Like this is powerful for moving forward. Anybody else? Yeah, I don't want to cut it short, but yeah, if we'll have another opportunity to share some more stories, but just yeah, if there's nobody else, we'll just close out. It's been echoed, it's been said. I can't say this enough for you guys. You know, just how much each of you meant to her. Like there's no words that are going to be able to relay what you guys meant to her. And I know it's the same in reverse, right? I know there's no words that we can say that is going to, you know, be able to represent what she meant to each of you. I count it a privilege, right, to be able to have known her. I truly consider it an honor to be able to do this for her. We'll just, yeah, I got nothing else. We'll close in prayer and Yeah, just thank you for everybody that shared. I know this isn't normally what maybe a funeral service looks like, and I think that's a good thing, right? I think it's awesome for people to share their heart, share their mind, share their memories. You know, this isn't about making it look the same, right? This is about remembering, honoring. You know, let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, we just thank you that we got the privilege to know Annabelle. We thank you that we were able to spend time with her. We thank you that we were able to know her, that we could share life with her, Lord. I just, yeah, we don't take that privilege lightly. It really is an honor to be able to be a part of the legacy and the memories that she left behind, Lord. I do pray for the family, Lord. I just pray that you will be with them, you will comfort them, you will give them just that they can feel your arm around them, Lord, as they go through this next chapter of life, you know, and be able to move forward and definitely not forget. Definitely, yeah, there will be no forgetting, right? She's a part of them and she's a part of us, Lord. And I just pray for your peace, your comfort to be with each one of us, Lord, as we go forward. And we just praise you, thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for sharing. You know, you guys made this right what it was.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude our service, but everybody's invited next door to join the family for lunch. So if you're able to stay, as you exit the building, just come out the door, make a right and a right across the parking lot. You'll see the signs for the Wallach O'Connor House. You can just keep your cars where they are and you can join the family for some lunch and sharing some more stories. Thank you.